guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a teardrop loop but the row by row method instead of making them in V's for anyone who might not be advanced enough or comfortable with making V's for the entire bracelet. So I'm going to show you how to do it row by row method. So if you want to watch that, just keep on watching. So for this demonstration, I'm making a pretty small bracelet. It only has 8 strings total, which is pretty small for me. I usually go for like 12 to 20 strings total. But one of your strings, the loop of the color you want your loop to be, will have to be pretty significantly longer than the rest of your strings because you'll be making knots with that for the loop. So you're going to need a little bit extra for that one, but you're going to match up your ends and you're going to find like this loop shape at the top, and when you do that you're going to just kind of pinch off where you want your loop to start and how you want to size it. And once you do that, you're going to make sure that your longer string is facing toward you so you can make the knots for your loop. So once you do that, you're going to tape your strings down to your surface. So to make your loop, you're going to be making backward knots and forward knots over all of the strings with your desired color, and this is the string you made longer than the rest, so you'll have enough to do the bracelet later on. But basically, you have to make a backward knot, which is 2, backward 4s, and then forward knots, which is 2 frontward 4s. And it doesn't really matter which order you start with. It doesn't matter if you start with forward knots or backward knots, but you're going to alternate backward knot, forward knot, or vice versa to get the loop. So that's just what I'm doing here. And usually I subtract either half or 1 away from the total amount of strings for the amount of knots you're going to make, even though it doesn't really matter. I like to make it kind of smaller for teardrop loops, so for an 8 string bracelet I'm going to make about 7 knots, or for a 16 bracelet you're going to make about 14 knots, and this is what it's going to come out to look like. Some might be longer if your bracelet's bigger, but you can just determine how big you want your loop to be, and you can kind of straighten it up, kind of pinch it, and you can fold it to make sure you like the size of it. And then once you do that, you're going to tape your loop down to your surface. So this is the pattern I'm using. It'll be linked in the description down below. But basically, you want a V shape. So in the pattern, you're going to find your first V. And for the first thing you're going to do is you're basically sectioning which strings are going to be in that first V. So as you can see here, it's a white string, so we're going to be doing a forward backward knot so that it's on to the strand as a whole, but you're going to be included outwards so you can make the knots with it later on. And then after you do your first color, you can see the second color that's included in this V is the light green, so I'm just once again making a forward backward knot so that I can include it in the right placement in the row. For the next knot, you can see it's a green, like a dark green, so you're going to be doing a forward backward knot with that color. And so now you're going to be doing that except on the other side, so you would be making backward forward knots instead. But you get the gist, I hope so. So basically, once again, you're starting with what colors are going to be in that first V. So once again, it's white since it's a symmetrical pattern. And another thing I should mention is that teardrop loops can be affected if you don't have the same amount of colors on each side. So just make sure that you're comfortable with the colors and there's an even amount of strings, but there are tutorials out there for odd number string teardrop loops, so you can definitely look up those. But right now you can see I'm just including those colors that are included in this first V, and I hope I'm explaining this correctly, and I hope you understand, but I think I'm doing it okay. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions at all, and I will get back to you. But you might have noticed in the pattern that I skipped the black knot, and that's because there's nothing to knot them onto, so you make a knot between them, and this kind of makes your finished, teardrop loop. But the only thing to mention is that it's kind of hard to get it secure and tight. You don't want a loose looking knot, so you kind of have to do these odd like finger holding tricks with the string, but you should get it eventually. So now that you have your colors knotted onto the loop, you're going to be starting making your knots. So basically you're taking that first V still and you're basically following the knots. So as you can see, the pattern tells you to do all forward knots for the left side of white color onto all the other strands, and for the right side you're going to be doing backward knots with the white string onto all the other strands, and then meeting in the middle with a forward knot between the two white strands. I hope that makes sense, but basically what you're doing here is you're making kind of the first row of your bracelet. What we did before was just a loop, but now we have to kind of secure it in with your actual bracelet. So that's what this first V is, and I know you came here for a row by row method, so I will be showing you how to fix that up and continue doing row by rows in a minute, but right here I'm just showing you how to do the knots just in case you weren't sure. So now, since you want to work in rows or V's if you're comfortable, there's other tutorials, but you kind of want to even out the sides where there's missing knots. So as you can see here, we want to draw basically a line where that middle knot is meeting and fill in any knots on the sides that we might have not filled in while doing our V's. So as you can see, outlined in red, there's two knots that we did need to fill in the sides with, which are both forward knots with the light green onto the dark green and the black. And what this is doing is it's filling in the sides, so when you're done making these filler knots, it will be a straight row, and you continue your pattern with straight rows with the row after this. You'll see. So now your pattern should be a straight row, and you can continue working from the row below you were, working on. And this is just a really quick time lapse of some of the bracelet that I made, but it did get cut, so I couldn't include the full thing, but you'll see it in a minute. So this is the finished result of this bracelet. I made it pretty small because I wanted it to just be short and simple, but as you can see here, it's a teardrop loop and it looks kind of a little more professional than a regular loop. But I have some other examples with bigger bracelets if you wanted to be able to see it better. And this was also using the row by row method, but you can see it's a teardrop shape, which is, I think, really cool. But thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you have any additional questions, just comment down below. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you next time.